Welcome and thank you for staying with us. News Check continues on this second hour. We want to wind up on the topic that we had earlier on when it comes to the future of the parties that are across the country and what trend are we setting for the next generation. Let's conclude on that particular topic before we move on to the communique that was issued by IEBC when it comes to recalling of members of parliament. I want to start with Daktari here. Daktari, we're talking about, you clearly stated earlier on before we took a commercial break that there is something that we cannot impart on the next generation. Politics is not taught. The question is, what happens to these policies and the constitutions that guides the party? Are they just words written on a paper? Can that not impart that language on those young people?
They are words written on a piece of paper. And that's just the reality. But I think I want to ask this sort of generation that we call Gen Zs. In fact, I'm still trying to look for them. I was taught that actually I was alerted that I have about 6 of them in my house. Yes. When they went out to enjoy tear gas, and they came back and they were chatting, and I was like, so what did you guys do? Now, I think I want to basically just hold a different view from what Alenga has said and almost agree with Harun. Even in our own houses, you cannot leave the leadership of your house to these young people. It's nearly impossible. I once worked for Microsoft, which is one of the leading tech companies, and then I worked for Intel, which is a leading tech companies. And then I set up the Africa Center for Advanced Technology. That is where I work now, and AI is big. Now, in all of these companies, nobody was willing to actually take a much younger person to the leadership of that company. Even talking of these emerging tech trends, space. Yeah. And so we would still leave them in the labs to run around in the labs, learn things, learn management and all of that. And so we cannot outsource Kenya's leadership today to the Gen Zs. Let them forget about that. There is no way a country of this magnitude at this level is going to actually, the leadership is going to be outsourced to the Gen Zs. I don't even have a formula to actually be able to do that. Because if I can't do it in my own house, I can't do it even in my own farm. And we know the countries that we look to when it comes to issues democracy. Which countries come to mind?
America.
US come to mind. UK come to mind. I mean, Western countries. We look at that those are the mothers and fathers of democracy. But tell me, who are they electing to some of these positions, apart from Obama, who was one of the youngest at, I think, was it 44? After Obama, who became the president at 70-something? Yes. That was Trump. After Trump, who became the president? Biden. At what age? Almost 80. And now we have Trump back there at whatever age. And we still look at these countries as the beacons of democracy. Go to Congress or go to the Senate in the US. I mean, I'm lucky to have gone to school there. You saw the leader of GOP. I think he just left that position about 2 years ago at the age of almost 90-something. Pelosi, the speaker, Nancy, who left that position. So there is a way that actually, and that is why I indicated that I don't have a political ideology. I don't have a well-cultured political philosophy that I can hand over to the Gen Zs. We have nothing to hand over to them, literally, my generation. All we actually have is a country that is somewhat working economically, somewhat working from a development point of view, somewhat, and so we are basically, and I can confirm to you today that democracy is an experiment. And none of us actually can say that we are sitting here because we understand and appreciate democracy fully, and this is how it actually should run. Because even the Americans themselves are confused. I mean, I go there quite often. They are confused about, okay, fine, what is the situation now? Is this what we call democracy? Because they thought that this is how it's run. So the young people, the Gen Zs, need to hold their horses. They need to participate, yes. But if you look at even the younger people that actually we have in Parliament today, you can name them.
Yes.
Are they basically giving us proper direction of leadership that we should actually emulate, even the ones that have been counted on this table? No. In any case, most of them, the likes of some of them who are Secretary Generals, have been sitting in those positions not having been elected, which is basically the true DNA of democracy. Democracy is, you know, the element of election is a critical component of what we call democracy. But why would you be sitting in a leadership position and you claim and talk with authority, yet you are not even elected in that position, whether you are in which party in Kenya today? And to me, that is why I keep saying, okay, fine. It is the older generation, those of us who are now becoming older now, to actually show good example of leadership so that these young people can actually follow us. Because in Africa and in Kenya, we're still going to follow leaders, not parties. And so whatever those leaders tell us that the party is what we actually subscribe as members. So the young people are going to actually find themselves in the tribal outfits again, one more time, and many more times going forward. Because our political formations revolve around our tribes, or we call them nations, or those sort of groupings. That is actually how, because you realize now, even with DAP, no, is it DAP, DCP, or whatever? No, the one of Momalo Kijana.
DAPK.
Who are fighting for the leadership of that position? They are from a very specific county. So that means that I can't come from my home and be a leader of that party. It has just to actually change hands by people from that same community. If you want to wrestle DCP now out of Gachagua, you would actually have to try and be a Kikuyu to actually be able to do that. If you want to actually take over other parties or Wiper, you have to be a very strong Kamba to actually take it from. So we are basically coalescing around our tribes. The only positive thing that actually Gen Z now seems to have, and they actually are getting there by accident, and that I think Alenga can actually ride on, is the element of toned down tribal lines. Why? Because my children can't speak Suba today, and that is my language. From there, my wife speaks Luo. She's a Luo. So, and our children can't even speak that either. They are struggling with Swahili. So to that extent, that line of tribe, and only in the cities, let's be clear about that, only in the cities. That is why that line of tribe is sort of like, but also remember that even in the cities, it's the tribal game that is still going to actually play. Because if you want to be a member of parliament from, let's say, Langata area, you need to appear like you're a Luo to actually be able to succeed there. And we look at areas where most Luos and Luyas are. If you want to come from Westlands, unfortunately, you need to appear like you're a Luya, because then that's how you actually extract votes from there. So our politics is still going to actually revolve around leaders, and we become followers. And for the most part, it's going to be a formation that is largely colored by the issue we call tribe.
Okay. And Dr. let's wind up on this particular topic so that we can move to the next one. As we wind up on these particular issues of party, how do we move away from what Dr. Maki is talking about, ethnic balkanization, especially that has been inculcated within parties? In just 1 minute, and then I'll give Alega the same minute, and then we move on to the next.
I think I don't need to take a lot of time on that. I don't think if it is something that is easy for us to move away from it soon, because when you look at every politician, he looks for a stronghold where he has a strong representation. And that is where he starts the initial process of his political game. And that's why you see DCP went to central Kenya. That's why you see, for you to sound well in terms of Wiper, as he has mentioned, you must be in Ukambani. So generally, this is something that we cannot move away from. It's also haunting us because as pastoralists, tribal issues and clan issues dominates our election process. And you will see even in our negotiated democracy, which was echoed so much that it was a good thing, it wasn't actually a very good thing because there was distribution of positions to tribal elements. This led to a situation where whether you have the numbers or not, it is your backyard, the tribal backyard, that will going to help you to secure anything. Even now, when we want to go and campaign, we must go with elders from different clans. So it is something that does not end very fast. If you want to go to Luo Nyanza, you must go with some Luos elders and look for a seat there. If you are president, you must look for that. So the way our politics is structured, the way our ways of doing things that, including even employment or even, it's in our constitution that we look at issues related to, regional balance, tribal balance, all those things which has been put there actually has spoiled the game for democracy, because democracy is not through balancing through tribal or regions, it is through merits. And if merits is not the things that are used, then this tribal balkanization will continue, and there's no way we can end it. And I don't think if our generation will see that, probably our children's children might experience, because of the language factors and what they are going through in terms of understanding the tribal issues, and then they think a bit wider in terms of having friendship and people from different cities rather than people from different tribes. That could be a change that we expect if at all it will come. But I don't think if this other one will happen soon. I don't think if it will happen soon.
Okay. Finally, Alenga, on this.
I think very quickly I would like to differ with Dr. Matunga's focus that young people can only play second fiddle but not really get into leadership positions. You see, that is, for me, I would say that is a mental construction that is powered with fear of the unknown rather than empirical evidence that young people cannot perform. If you look at the first cabinet of the Republic of Kenya, the median age was 45 years. If you look at the first parliament of the Republic of Kenya, the median age was 47 years. It means there were lots of people in their 20s in that parliament, including people like Tom Mboya. They were in their late 20s when a leader like Jomo Kenyatta entrusted responsibility upon them. If you look at the Congress that Dr. Matunga quotes, the median age as at now is 57 years. So it means there are lots of younger people in that Congress in the US. So ours is just a mental construction that we think these young people don't deserve. It's like when you even come to, even if you went to your local MP with a proposal as a young person and you tell them, this is how I think you can support the young people in this constituency, he'll just look at you as a hungry boy who needs something, and he'll look at those papers, he'll listen to you, then dips his hand in the pocket and gives you 2,000 shillings and tells you, okay, we'll look at it. But then for him, empowerment is buying lesos for the mamambogas, buying umbrellas, sheds for the people who are selling stuff and building border sheds, because that is the past where he belongs. That was true empowerment those days. But now things have totally changed. I would want to know from both Daktaris, if your son today comes and tells you, he wants to vie for Senator of Nairobi. And indeed, he's very popular in Nairobi. And you look at it and you see, my son is really going to win this seat. And he's only 25. Will you stop him because you believe in your house you can't give him an opportunity, so even he can't be Senator for Nairobi? I think we need to allow the young people, the same people that we have spent lots of money educating, to try and practice that which we took them to school. Why would you invest in a child to the level of even sending them to study out of the country when you do not want them to practice that which they can do to change their country? Lastly, why does it change when it comes to leadership? Dr. Matunga, today if you walked into Nairobi Hospital and the surgeon is a 25-year-old boy and you are very sick, you will lie on that bed, he will do whatever he says, he'll perform the surgery on you, and after you come out of the anesthesia, you'll not ask, well, how old are you, young man? You know, so I think it all goes without saying, even in the other spaces, let's allow the younger generation to come through and tell us what are these ideas they have. What is that new thing they can offer? If the first government was able to entrust young people into the cabinet, young people into parliament, then we can do it today. And in fact, we can do it today better because they are more equipped.
Thank you so much.
I think the same thing, just one. It's good to, he has mentioned about,
so that we
first and foremost, you cannot become a surgeon at the age of 25. For you to become a surgeon in the medical field, you must be more than 35 years. That must be a fact there to be followed. But we are not saying that leadership is, the young people should not be given leadership. But leadership does not translate to political positions. We have a lot of positions that young people can be leaders.
So there are those
the ideology
give.
No, the ideology. The ideology that the Westerners brought and changed our names and made our names useless and translated to their names because nobody wants to have his indigenous name. It's the same ideology that our young people are being influenced in the digital world to think that they can become a member of parliament but not a surgeon.
Okay. And let's leave it there because we need to focus on this other conversation as well, given that we're running out of time. There is this particular communication that was issued by the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, IBC, when it comes to recalling of members of parliament. Now, this was initiated by very many Kenyans who are drawing petitions and taking it to the anniversary towers to recall some of their legislators before the 2027 general election. It was very interesting that the commissioners who were sworn in just the other day, clearly stating that there are legal gaps that arises from a High Court ruling in Katiba Institute and Transform Empowerment for Action Initiative versus the Attorney General of Kenya. In the case, provisions within the Elections Act of 101 were declared unconstitutional for being discriminatory. Now, the electoral body is arguing that there is no legal framework for the removal of an MP, a sitting one, and a senator. The only legal provisions that have been provided by the National Assembly and the Senate, that is Parliament as a whole, is the provisions to remove a member of the County Assembly. What IBC is arguing right now, that Parliament has not amended the law to address the recall of a member of Parliament and a senator. Let me start with you, Daktari. Are we sure these members of Parliament will amend these laws?
Well, I mean, that is also one area I might agree with Alenga. Not necessarily to saturate Parliament with younger people, but new brains. Because truth be told, there is no way you expect me as a member of Parliament in Kenya, in Africa, to actually draft, and even if I draft it, to make it easy for me to be removed from Parliament. Because more often than not, I'll be doing things that may actually warrant removal. And so it's like we are asking, no, I forgot how I wanted to actually put it, but you don't expect members of Parliament to actually even put a strong, solid law and process. The Constitution provides for it. But the Constitution is actually activated by an act of Parliament. And I want to believe, I think there is some mention on how you can remove a member of Parliament. But it's made so difficult that it's nearly impossible
Yes.
to actually remove them. So,
Yeah.
so to even ask me whether this is going to be possible, I think I would be somewhat unfair to members of parliament to think that they have the capacity to craft a solid law that provides a pathway to which they can actually go out. In fact, if we entrust them with that responsibility, it will even be difficult. But that's just basically how our democracy works, because even as a member of public, a private citizen, I can initiate a law.
Yes.
But that law will actually have to be passed by Parliament, which is why I think that it is important that we actually, quote unquote, elect good leaders. But so long as our political formation still revolves around political leaders and revolves around the tribal formations and balkanization, as Harun was saying, it is nearly impossible to expect too much. But let us also appreciate, I don't want us to sit here and appear like Kenya is on fire, that our country is burning from a political side of things. No. It is great today that actually we can have a very heated conversation. It is great today that actually we can have a very animated conversation around one or two other issues. But that's a privilege we have in this country. That is what I consider the level of freedom that actually we have. Ask Arun here, he works in a lot of countries, conflict infested countries in his work of development. That is when you actually come and appreciate that, hey, you know what? Afadhali tukae kwa nchi yetu. We talk politics throughout, and it's animated in whichever way.
And we're able to sleep at night.
And we're able to sleep. I mean, look at the countries around us. And that to me is one thing. You know, at times we want to appear like Kenya is on fire, or we travel to other countries, we tell the Western countries that Kenya is a failed state. Please, before you declare Kenya as a failed state, before we even say that, you know, these members of parliament are MPs, before you say that, you know, the country has failed, it's not working, I would rather even, I mean, try and even without a passport, and get a passport and go to the neighboring country and live there for even a month. And then you will realize that, hey, you know what? Kenya is a great place, and we have something, and not really to actually belabor the point of the agencies, but we have something to actually offer to the agencies. So it is not all lost. And even in Parliament, there are some good legislations that actually come from there. And unfortunately, even in Parliament, the political leader who gets the majority of members of Parliament is still going to actually influence what really happens there. And if you don't get them at the ballot, you will actually buy them once they get into Parliament. And so I don't want to appear like damned if we do, damned if we don't. Either way, we're not at crossroads. It's not that bleak. We are progressing pole, and our democracy is a work in progress, like it is everywhere else. And I'm just hoping that I will leave behind a better Kenya for my children than I lived in. And that's the responsibility that we actually do all have. I don't think that we need to actually give up and say, hey, you know, Gen Zs come and take over and start leading this country. No, I mean, we will work with them. We will help where we can. We will provide whatever kind of support we actually need to provide for our country. But the issue remains in Parliament. Parliament is what is actually going to help this country move forward or keep this country backwards. But we also can't just basically outsource all the leadership in Parliament to the Gen Zs. We have to actually have the mix, because you need the old hands, you need that experience to actually also play even in legislative making. And yes, I agree. I'm a technologist here. I mean, that's what I do. Actually, I call myself a technology evangelist. There is no technology that is not sitting on a previous platform. So even if it is new technology that is coming and we are all with it, it has to actually sit on a previous process, and it has to be measured on how best it can actually help our country move forward.
Yes.
But I want to conclude by saying Kenya is a great country, and I don't think I would ask for any other country better than Kenya.
Okay. Daktari, as also respond, IBC is saying there is a law, there is the Elections Act, there is the Constitution, Article 104, 105 of the Constitution that guides, but the problem they are saying is the amendment. So will that be possible before that 2027 general election?
I think, Abdulaziz, it is important for us to understand where the problem is, because there are quite a number of legislations that are pending in Parliament, particularly when it is touching parliamentarians. It is our right, constitutional right, to recall either a member of Parliament or a Senate.
Yes.
Article 104 grants electorates powers to recall their electorates. Of course, grounds are very clear. Article, Chapter 6, violation, mismanagement of public funds, and of course, Elections Act violations or convictions. These are the process or the recall grounds that are already in place. You remember, historically, even the High Court, when these processes occur, of course, the procedures is the High Court ruling, petition, signature thresholds, and recall votes. These are the procedures which are already there. You know, we are not working in a vacuum. The Constitution provides this. And I don't see why Kenyans spent a lot of money to come up with 2010 Constitution if parliamentarians do not want to enact those laws. So the Senate, there's a bill 2024, Bill 2024, which is trying to seek to restore, you know, the process. But concern still remains because parliamentarians are not interested in restoring back, you know, that procedures under the Constitution. So that's where you'll realize that there is disconnect between our Constitution and the Constitution process organ, which is Parliament. They are mandated to process that. Now they are viewing it as if they will be permanently there. Members of Parliament or Senate are never permanent there. Every 5 years, we change them. Few of them comes back. And those few who comes back comes through a different dubious means, which everybody understands. That means then, it doesn't guarantee you to hold a constitutional right that is mandated for you to process and finalize it and put the acts in place in order for the electorates do their jobs, because their job is, if you don't perform, they will recall you back. They could still add some few hinges here and there to make it more tougher, but the biggest challenge we are having is the lack of consideration from members of Parliament on issues that are constitutionally right and they are on their table. Actually, in essence, the legal team, I'm sure the people who are legal professionals will say, because each constitution, each act had a deadlines to be implemented. Actually, if you ask me, probably Kenya is in constitutional crisis. But again, do we really care whether we are in a constitutional crisis or not? For example, the by-elections. After the office is announced, the seat is vacant by Speaker of either National Assembly or Senate, it only takes 90 days before elections are conducted. What happened, the one in Banissa, which took now over 2 years? Will they going to conduct a by-election? I don't think so, because constitutionally, they are supposed to look at it from the framework of how that procedures are always implemented. So my thinking is that if they must do a by-election, they must go and seek for legal advice from either Supreme Court or whatever it is. Or the Speaker must again find a way of declaring the office vacant and to give way for another 3 months for election process to take place.
Okay.
So there are quite a number of crises, and this is not exceptional, particularly when it is touching on members of parliament's mandates, as well as recalling them from the office. We are likely not to see this. But again, the bottom line is that if this does not happen, then there is no need of following our constitution halfway and leave some articles that requires to be put in place or operationalized. I think parliamentarians, they should be very serious. Selfishness should not be the order of the day. They should think of the future. Now this is where I come on board, where my brother says we must hand over, we must find something to hand over to our younger generation. Meaning, if you are not setting a platform for them to ride on, and you wait them to come and do that work, they will never do it even themselves, even in 10 years, 50 years from today. So the best thing is you be there, you have the opportunity to do all the things that pertains the constitution. You have been given that mandate. Please, parliamentarians should take their role effectively, because by failing to implement even that particular act within parliament, we can recall them because that is part of their duty and that they have failed to perform their duty. The gender issue was also a big issue. They have not come up with modalities in which the gender issue can be addressed. I mean, if it became difficult, they have also all the right to say we can amend this based on the reality. Because when we were developing the 2010 constitution, Kenyans were battered by the previous regime, and they were thinking that if they come up with a constitution that they have not given a lot of thoughts, they borrowed from different in countries that have stayed more than 500 years, then of course these challenges were expected to come. But because where they were was not much better, they said let's sail into the sea, and then after that is when you will find how we will swim and save yourself. So we are in that crisis. But again, the crisis still continues. The fact that parliamentarians fail to do their job. And if they are continuously acting the same as they are acting, then I think we should ask for the recall of the whole parliament. And that is also provided in the constitution, that the president can decide to say, you have failed to perform your duty, and therefore the parliament should be dissolved. Although the constitution now has protected them. It's not like before that the president can just come and dissolve parliament during the Moi or Kibaki's era. So I think that's where the challenges is, and we are thinking that if parliamentarians will not want to take this agenda forward, then our electioneering processes will always be at stake, it will always be in question, and we will always fail to achieve what we want to desire. What we desire to achieve in terms of best practices and best laws that we want to follow and act on.
Okay. Alenga, where is the fairness in this? Because it's so easy in this country for Parliament especially to impeach a president, a sitting president. They have impeached a deputy. The Senate has the powers to impeach a governor, and it's not a tedious process. If you look at the Election Act, there are about 8 steps they're supposed to follow until you fully recall that member of Parliament and a by-election is held there. So where is the fairness in this?
I think I totally believe that IEBC faulted in the advisory on the recall of MP, and they acted ultra-vires of the Constitution. This is why I say so. You know, Article 1 of the Constitution says that all citizens have the right to recall their member of Parliament midway. So if this is a right, then as you read that article, the Constitution does not give us where the right is abrogable in terms of the inaction of the other party. And it is part 2 that says Parliament shall enact, which is a command. It's not an optional suggestion. So if they have not enacted that law, and this law actually only will carry the procedure and the issues to be determined. But then if IEBC comes forward to stop in the heels of the people that want to recall their MP, then clearly IEBC is clawing back a right that has been given to the citizens. If you look at the impeachment procedure, what is the role of IBC? It's very simple to cross-check the names to ensure that they are registered voters, to cross-check the signatures, which also poses a technicality, because how does IBC, what mechanism does IBC have to prove that this signature belongs to Abdi Hashim? So I think, as it were, IBC cannot take up the role of determining the demerits and merits of the impeachment petition brought before them. As it were, and straight in the law, this recall could have proceeded, and IBC does their part, because this act that Parliament has refused to enact has not in any way stopped IBC from accepting a petition and lodging the petition and okaying the petition. And then, if this MP feels they were impeached without procedure, then they have a court of law to appeal that impeachment. But you cannot deny citizens the opportunity to do that which the Constitution has given them. So do it first. Then if there are these other technicalities that are being brought to the table, like the absence of the act, that was supposed to be done by the Parliament. Then now the court will determine if you are a party that is supposed to perform a certain obligation within the law, and you have deliberately refused to do that, and then it falls on you. So where does this blame go to? Do we absolve you of your mistakes because you refuse to enact a legislation? Then also, the framers of this constitution were very keen on everything that they did, and they did a thorough job in the sense that they knew that the Constitution, one act cannot be read in isolation. And I really laud the people who drafted our Constitution for including Article 1 in the Constitution, that all sovereign power belongs to the people, and it may be exercised directly or being donated to elected representatives. So if citizens feel that you are not performing that, they can withdraw that. And it's expressly in Article 1 of the Constitution, and it does not require any any legislation in Parliament to give the citizens this opportunity to recall you. The framers of the Constitution put this Article 1 in the Constitution because they anticipated one day there may be the roguest government that has ever run this country. We may have the roguest parliament, and unfortunately we are already there. And such things would come in to save the citizen from going through a lot of strain and stress. So if we have Article 1 of the Constitution, if we have Article 104, sub-Article 1, we can proceed with recalling the MPs. And if they have recourse, they can go to court. And when they go to court, all the parties will be served. And the parliamentarians can also, that parliamentarian can also come and explain to the court now and before all Kenyans why they refused selectively to enact a law that can remove them in case they are not fitting in the expectations of Kenyans.
And Dr. Matunga, as you respond to some of the statements that have been made by Daktari and Alega here, when it comes to ensuring that these laws are enacted, you do remember the former Chief Justice, that is David Maraga, had even dissolved the Parliament of the day because of failing to enact the two-third gender rule. So are we likely to see the courts coming in and declaring the same over the same Parliament for failing to enact these laws?
You know, I said earlier that Kenya is a great country, and I still maintain that it's a great country, even when I mention the challenges that we have. So we have the big challenges in the legislative branch. We have serious challenges in the executive branch, but even more serious in our court system, in the judiciary. So to actually sit here and expect that the true justice in its form and flavor will be dispensed from the justice side of life is actually almost a pseudo fallacy, at least in my view. However, there are instances whereby we've gone to actually the courts and received what we actually consider justice. Will the judiciary be able to actually interpret what needs to be interpreted in terms of removal of member of parliament? They are also, I don't know which side of life I want to actually approach this from. You know, the biggest problem that we have in this country is corruption. Corruption to me is the biggest problem. Whether you are a Gen Z or whether you are a millennial or Gen X or you are a dinosaur, the biggest problem that actually we do have is corruption. And that is why we are having serious challenges with our institutions, especially the institution of, in my view, the last resort, and that is judiciary. The people that are dispensing this sort of called justice are also being influenced by the same members of parliament who actually are influence them either economically with favors or who actually vote to pass them to be what they are. So whether you are the president of the Supreme Court, we're still going to be looking at regional balance, are you from this part of the world? Are you from this? And that is the part of the Constitution that I think I want to say very strongly. The aspect of regional balance is a big joke in our parliament, in our judicial system and in our Constitution. Because then you might end up with mediocrity just because you're looking at regional balance in terms of those who applied. I'll give you an example of the great democracy that we're looking at, and that is the U.S. In the U.S., the leader of minority in the Senate, that is Democratic Party, is from New York. In National Assembly, the leader of minority of the Democratic Party, the other is Schumer. In the Congress, House of Congress, the leader of minority in the House of Congress, who actually is now the leader of the party, if you don't have a president, if your president is not in the White House, is actually from New York. So you realize that actually New York has produced both leaders. So did they actually look at the regional balance? No, they looked at other factors, especially elements of merit. So I think that for us, if we can address the corruption of the mind and the corruption of the economics situation, these will actually help us deal with a lot of other issues. Because how is the courts going to decide to impeach a certain member of parliament who is from my region and I am the judge or I am the magistrate? You know, a few elders like Yelenga will be sent to meet you on the side. Are you sure you want to actually remove our child, our son, our daughter? Who else will then remain there? And all of a sudden, all of us from Luhyaland or all of us from Kikuyu will like, that is our son, should not be removed. Whether it is being impeached from Parliament. So that is the corruption part of which we have to deal with, up to including the corruption that we actually have in our pockets. So I have zero faith in the judiciary actually finishing the race of removing a member of Parliament. We've seen many cases, many cases, whereby a governor has been impeached. Parliament has also processed him, or the Senate has processed him or her, impeached, and then the court basically reinstates that person. So then you wonder, who was wrong, who was right? Were the MCAs right? Was the Senate right? was. And then you also find a situation whereby somebody has been impeached by the MCS and then comes to the Senate basically exonerates that person. So then who actually was right? Politics is a very interesting game, and we cannot approach it with right or wrong, unfortunately, in our circumstances. It is largely being approached from whose interest is being served and who is championing that particular agenda.
Okay.
Whether you're impeaching a deputy president or impeaching a member of parliament, or, removing a member of parliament, whose interest? If it turns out today that a member of ODM is being, is being recalled, and of course that final decision has to rest with parliament as well, and their number is reducing, of course they'll all, both UDA and ODM will troop to actually support that person, regardless of what that person did. Remember the other day when this guy from Meru, the former Minister for Agriculture, was almost being hanged in Parliament. It all depended on whose interest. And when time came to actually relieve him, he's now one of the major critics of. So it is interest. Whose interest is being. Forget about the legalese. Forget about which article. Forget about which portion of the Constitution says this and that. It is whose interest is being served by which recall, by which impeachment, by what sort of process. End of story.
Okay. So, Alenga, in essence, what you're telling not only those petitioners, but the people who signed that particular petition to wait until 2027 to make their decision.
Unfortunately, but now the drama is, and rightly as Daktari has said, if it was someone that maybe the government does not want him, that legislation would have been done. They'd have even sat up to midnight, enacted that regulation, and the Gazette notice would have been printed even at 3 a.m. and the next morning the motion would have been brought to the table. So we have turned our the implementation of our constitution to what we say, quo bono, whom does it benefit? So if it does benefit you, then you will be very, very agitated that it has to be done, and it has to be done very fast. You saw the pace at which the impeachment of the former deputy president, and the gazettement of the replacement took. It was a demonstration that if this country decides, we can actually work very hard. So that's where we are, and unfortunately, we have. But the bigger problem is we have put this constitution in the hands of people that maybe even in the first instance they never supported the amendment, the new constitution. Most of them were from the legacy politicians who have rolled all the way from the Moi era, where things were done differently. So now confronting themselves with a new constitution that calls for order, that calls for civility, that calls for interpretation and understanding of things and how they work, it's a bit difficult for them. It's like traveling onto new lands using an old map. So that's the quagmire we are in. But I'd like to give hope to Daktari, because he fears if Parliament is saturated with Gen Zs. It's not really Gen Zs. We're just saying like a new generation of leaders, because what we are having is most of our leaders are those who have come from the 80s struggles, the 70s, that come all the way. So if we can try to mix in all these generations so that our parliament or our leadership becomes Gen Zote, then we can be able to share ideas, so that if a parliamentarian who is maybe 75 years old brings something on the table, then I can share a recent perspective, and then we see how we put the two ideas together and which one sails across the day, so that we have balanced legislation, but not merely emotional or party driven, those parliamentary group meetings. That's where legislation is made, unfortunately.
Okay.
That's where everything is determined. That's why for even the young people of Viga constituency, where I come from, I am telling them that I'll be on that ballot in 2027, so that we can come and legislate things that affect them from a point of experience, from a point of like, I have gone through the same journey, I feel them, I know what they want. So then if we sit with other wazes in that bunge, then we decide which one works, what works best for all the generations. Because at the end of the day, as Daktari says, Kenya is the best country that we could ever have. There is no other better place than this place. We just need to fix our manners, we fix our politics, we understand one another, we work together, we bring each other up, not pulling each other down, so that we work for a collective goal. And in the end, even our children will never go to the Gulf for meager jobs.
Okay, and of course we are running out of time. Let me give you at least 30 seconds each so that we can wind up the topic. You can also comment on our Harambee Stars. You saw them doing well, even if you're not a football fan. You can say something to the boys so that they can it can cheer them as they continue for this continental showpiece. Let me start with you, Dr. Matunga. 30 seconds, and of course remember our boys as well.
My congratulations goes to the boys for what they were able to achieve 2 days ago against DRC. But I think that a lot more stronger matches are ahead of us, and I wish them well. As I was coming here, I basically, in the jam, I was able to buy 3 jerseys. So I'll begin wearing them tomorrow. I have a yellow, white, and a red one, double XL.
Yes.
So I'll be wearing them. I'll not be in the ties. In fact, I wish I could come here and all that.
Yeah.
But it's a great thing that we are seeing in our region. I still just want to say that Kenya is the best country we could ever ask for. I agree that yes, we need to fix our manners. We need to start behaving like we have a great country. Our politics will continue the way it does. I know now the strongest, as I conclude, the strongest conversation is around 1 term, 2 term, and that kind of a thing. I really think that yes, the Constitution provides for 1 term every 5 years. President Ruto will do his 5 times, 1 term now. And I think looking at the opposition, I don't see anyone who's going to beat him when he goes for another 1 term. So yes, I can join them and say 1 term, 1 term. But at the end of the day, Kenya is great for all of us.
Okay. Dr. quickly, 30 seconds.
I think what we have used in the field of psychology, we said operant conditioning. Where our boys were given 2 options. Either they will be rewarded or they will be punished. So on that aspect, it has worked, and now they are looking forward to getting their 1 million every...
They have already got
yes,
the 1 million.
every other game.
Yeah.
And of course, the 600 million of the final is still ahead of them.
Yes, yes.
Therefore, they have been enticed to do this job, and congratulations for the initial start. Even if we are beaten, we shouldn't be beaten on our home ground.
Yes.
When they are playing in Uganda or Tanzania, at that time we can stomach that. But on our own beautiful stadiums that we have spent over 150-something billion Kenya shilling to refurb them and make them to a standard that is of international, they shouldn't let us down. And we pray for them that they do their best. In regards to our members of parliament, I think the responsibility of ensuring laws are enacted is constitutional mandate, and they should be in a position to do their job. If they fail to do, then that will be attracting constitutional crisis, and I think we should use judiciary for them to push them to enact that, and if they fail to do so, then of course the president can dissolve the parliament, so that we get people, serious people who are seated here as you see them, will be the ones who will go into enact those acts that are pending in parliament.
Thank you. Alega, finally?
I think history repeated itself on the 3rd of August 1988. Kenya scored 1 goal to qualify for the All Africa Games against Tunisia. And the same happened on the 3rd of August, 2025. We congratulate the boys, and we know that they have all it takes to even win this tournament. So the spirit should be high. All Kenyans should support them and turn out for the games and appreciate them in their own ways. And also the government, thank you for appreciating the boys in a way that they have never seen before. Football has never been this rewarding in any government, and this one has really stood out on top and demonstrated to even the young footballers deep in the villages or sports kids who are interested in sports that one day your government will recognize the efforts you're making. This one is a very big congratulations to the president. You have done it, and nobody can match it now. To the one term and two term, this is what I want to say. Political parties are always the custodian of democracy. And if you look at where we are in terms of governance and where we could get if we make any changes, it is now upon the political class to make a decision, and a sober decision, to save country from sliding into the hands of demagogues by maintaining and protecting democracy. We have a responsibility to maintain and protect democracy. It's better, this country is better, and we can only hold it in that breath and make it better even for generations to come. Finally, for the young people, we cannot all be politicians, but if there is anyone amongst us who has the ambition for politics and they have demonstrated leadership in their communities and in every way, please support them, and we could get into the space one by one, slowly by slowly. We cannot take over the leadership in one gush, but we can do it one step at a time. For me, Vihiga constituency is at my heart, and I want to speak for them even in bigger platforms. And if they give me that responsibility in 2027, I will not disappoint.
Okay, thank you so much. That is Olenga Trust, that a policy advice. A policy advisor, as well as Dr. Isaac Hassan, a policy and governance expert, and then finally Dr. Mark Matunga, a senior political analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, even for surpassing the time that we had agreed. Thank you for making time for us. And of course, the conversation continues. And remember, Chaniko KBC, the matches this evening will be Congo against Sudan at 5 p.m. exactly, and then Senegal versus Nigeria. Given that we are still focusing on that, Chan, do not go too far. Kurunzi Mashinani is up next, but of course, as well, our sports team will have the pre-analysis and post-analysis of those matches. My name is Abdiaziz Ashim, the sign language interpreter. At the bottom end of the screen is Lensa Odingo. Good morning for now.